We should start, right? Don't we? Thank you very much for coming for this very session. The thing is that I have two things to cover, two topics. The first one is very short because I would like to talk about the unbreakable system or network. And then right after we will talk about why it doesn't exist. So the unbreakable system, to talk about that, well, it's done, right? So there is no unbreakable system. And the reason why it doesn't exist, there is multiple things why. Just give you two or three things, the why, for the reason of the why. We know the hackers are very capable, and these days everything is about the ChatGPT or similar tools. And you know, this is a fantastic tool and capabilities, what we can do with the whole AI thing and security aspect of it. There are some challenges. We can feed to the ChatGPT to check our code or write the code instead of us for a good purpose. But also, it was just a month ago when a researcher just played a little trick. So he asked the ChatGPT or any similar tool that, hey, give me a malware, which will bypass all the defenses. Now, ChatGPT and similar tool has a control. OpenAI and Microsoft indirectly is behind those tools, so there's some kind of control around that. So this trick was working back then. So when it was asking, okay, give me a malware which will bypass everything, the tool said, well, that's forbidden. I mean, come on, it's no, I won't. But the guy then went and chopped up the thing into multiple pieces. Okay, give me a code which will run through my system and find just the pictures. Then another piece of the code, find my valuable documents, data, which is a value. And then give me a third one, a fourth step. Give me a code which will this interesting document put into the pictures. It's a steganography, right? And then give me also a command to exfiltrate the data. So if you properly ask the ChatGPT, it will eventually give you the malware, which will bypass things. Now this trick doesn't work anymore because there's a control behind that. There's an organization or a company or someone who controls and just fixes the code. Hey, this stupid trick doesn't work anymore. But the point is, the chatbot like just lowers down the capability. You don't have to be a coder. And as we've seen in the past, these ransomware as a service, malware as a service, DDoS as a service, you just purchase those. You don't have to be a coder. This is just another way to do that. Now, Talos guys, who is a Cisco's backend system or threat researchers, they also play the trick. It doesn't work anymore. So they ask, okay, hey, ChatGPT, give me a phishing email, which will bypass most of the people will click around or click on a link. That's forbidden, that's illegal, I won't do that. Now, if you do a little trick, okay, I'm running an awareness program inside my company, so I want to educate my users. So would you be pleased to give me some examples just to teach them and recognize? And then ChatGPT applied and gave that information. Again, this stupid trick doesn't work anymore, but my point is that lowering the bar is another tool what we can use. Now, I personally very much like the Gigabyte motherboard. My home computer at home, I do use these motherboards and products. I like them. Anyone else using Gigabyte product? Okay, they are cool, aren't they, right? But this is scary. So it was just 2 or 3 days ago. It was, I was a little shocked. Immediately I checked, my motherboard is not on the list, but anyway, the thing is, the malware was implanted into the BIOS level. I mean, even if you figure out that your system is compromised, you wipe the complete operating system, you reinstall, it doesn't matter. It will come back the malware from the firmware. And even this is not a new trick. We have seen this type of attack in the past when the network card firmware was infected or a graphics card firmware was infected. So even if you completely reinstall your system, it will come back the malware. I mean, what kind of firewall can protect against that type of attack? There is none. I mean, this is scary. The only thing what you can do then is to detect somehow and to respond that. We'll come back to that point. And a third thing, that the why unbreakable system doesn't exist, there are many, just one more thing. So the Conti ransomware group, this is when the hacker got hacked, okay, last year. So they were a big player in the ransomware business, and we pretty much, like an industry, we assume that they are very capable. So they have money, they have knowledge, they are big players, they work as an enterprise, they're organized as an enterprise. But when they were hacked and all of their servers and chats and everything was seized by the law enforcement, we got all of the data. So this was kind of proof that how they are organized. When you have an assumption that how they work, that's one thing, but when you get a proof, that's scary. But how they are organized, so they had the HR department to hire. So if you was working for them and you have a buddy, your buddy was a good programmer, a coder, or pen tester, you onboard them, you got a bonus. It's an employee referral program. So you bring someone, you get an additional bonus. Employee of the month, they had a good pen tester guys who were not aware of that they are in illegal business. I mean, how heavy is that? And those pen testers, they were thinking of like, okay, we got an assessment with the company. Your job is just to get in, get that admin and root password, hand it over, and your job is done, or your task. And those guys who figured out that we are in illegal business, they thought, okay, they are smart, they got a salary increase because they are smart. I mean, which firewall will protect against this organization? No way. No way to do that. And the last thing regarding the why unbreakable system is not or doesn't exist. This study was done by Kaspersky a few months ago, and they went to the dark web and just searched. I don't know if it's legit, like how proper is the data or valid the data, but this is what they were doing. And their search or analyzed pretty much a lot of advertisements on the dark web. And look at that. How much money you can make per month? $20,000 per month. This is ridiculously high amount of money. So this is a huge temptation to go in a dark side. I would tell you, and obviously that makes sense, that do not do that because it's illegal, and eventually those guys are being busted as well. So this is a good example. So if you're a dark side and law enforcement is coming after you, eventually you will be, end up in a jail. So these are good examples as well. Even if there is a very huge temptation because a lot of money is into that things. But is it an uphill battle? Because we see those challenges, the new thing what we see. And I would say we still might do something, but maybe just a little bit we need to think differently. And differently, I mean, these are at the bottom, these are product/technologies, not Cisco specific, it's just not vendor specific, just in general. We'll get into the details in a second. Now this, and when we know the hackers, when we know the tactics, what they use, the tricks and obfuscation, then we might use those legacy things, firewall, web proxies, email gateways, authentication system, VPN and stuff like that to protect against those type of attacks. But as we move on the other end, when we don't know the attackers, we don't know the tactics what they use, it's something new, something novel, new obfuscation method, because we have seen that they are capable, they have money, they have a knowledge, and they have to be right only once, right? Be all the time on the kind of side. Now, as we move on that side, we need to leverage something on a technology level, something new or something more advanced. Maybe to visualize something, because that's for us, for human, for security analysts, is important, because this is how we see the relation between the things. So somehow to visualize the things, maybe to use some kind of statistics model, or we have machine learning, obviously AI is here, everyone talks about those, some behavior. These are not new things. And what I want to cover a little bit deeper, that 2 and 3 at the right top corner. So threat hunting, the deception, the cyber deception, just to give you some ideas, and Cisco's XDR. XDR is being extended detection and response. Technically, this is where the endpoint and all the network things come together, but this is still a technology. Technology is just 50% of our security. We'll still need you, the bright and smart people who will operate these technologies. Okay? So I will cover that. But before we jump into the Cisco XDR, what is this new thing, what we just announced a month ago, approximately, maybe 2, just a couple of ideas about the threat hunting and a cyber deception, because this is partially part of the XDR, or might be part of that. Now, this is cyber kill chain. We know that if you're in security, probably you're already bored with that. But this is just a few steps how the hackers, most of the time, what they do step by step. Obviously, it's not a handbook for them. They are not following it. But when they go and find information about us, they create a malware, they somehow exploit the system, they install something, they make a command and control, you know the stuff. Now, from defense side, this green one, these are the preventive technologies. We like them because we use them 15 years plus. Those technologies, firewall, email gateway, web proxies, authentication system, VPN, stuff like that, we still need those because they will block the bad thing on the fly. It's fast, it's very precise, but it will not catch anything which is advanced. So that's why we need something which is post-infection. Eventually, there is no unbreakable system. Eventually, something will bypass our defenses. So we need those technologies in our hand and knowledge of what to do with them. Okay, this is technology-wise, okay, we are gathering NetFlow data or telemetry data, and we create a baseline, and anything which is a deviation from the baseline, that's suspicious. That's what we need to should investigate. And this is also we are doing that part. There was 7 or 8 years ago, there was either Gartner or IDC, I can't recall properly, but they did ask many people around it how you spend your security budget. And 95%, so almost everything, was spent on these preventive technologies because this is what we understand. And very few percentage was spent on these technologies. A little bit's changed these days, but that's good. But I would say if you have, and still do that one at the top, that if you combine with these more like a concept with these threat hunting and a deception, and I will give you one, it's not about the deception, it's the rest of the presentation, but I will give you just 1 or 2 ideas what I mean by that. If you combine that, this might be a pretty good defense and detect the hackers who are already inside our network. So with combining all of those security technologies with the threat hunting as an activity, threat hunting is something it's proactive. So everything seems okay, but if you connect the dots in the right order, and if you look the problem from this angle, well, that might be suspicious. I will give you also an example. Now my goal is, as a defender, so when a hacker is doing a recon, he's gathering information about me, I want to lie to him or that. When they create their weapon, their malware, and they want to deliver somehow email or make the users click or hack the system, I want to misdirect them and just to make them to do a detour, just a longer way to come to us. I will give you an example. When they create an exploit or find a vulnerability, they exploit it and they install something, I want to deceive them. I want to obfuscate them. And when they succeed to get in, they have this command and control channel. I want to disrupt that. And finally, the act part, this is the main goal, the ultimate goal, what they want, I want to delay that. Maybe it's an exfiltration, depending on what kind of things they want. So this is my goals, right? The $1 million question is the how, right? So it sounds cool, but how can you do that? Just give you some examples, 1 or 2 examples, and in a second we will come to a minute we'll come to the Cisco XDR, which might be part of all of this story. Now deception, well, that's not new concept in wars. So in the last, I don't know, even this war which is happening next to us, in 100 or 200 years ago, deception was used, just to fool the enemy. And in this context, if you have kids, probably you already have seen 10 times the movie Home Alone, right? This is a battle plan Kevin created. If you don't have kids, then maybe 3 times you have seen the Home Alone movie. The thing is that in the movie, the 7-year-old kid stuck at home for whatever reason, and he got threat intelligence. It's an eavesdrop when he heard the thieves talking each other that they want to come to his house and rob. So he decided that, okay, he will not run away, but he said, okay, this is my house. If you come to me, you have to play my game. So I am the owner of the house. I know the layout. I know where is the living room. I know the bathroom. I know that door was stuck. I know where to lay down traps. The same analogy would go to our network. In ideal world, we are the person who should know the best our network. This is my server, this is my client, this is my guest network, this is my little cloud, this is on-prem, this is sensitive information, asset inventory, all of those things, what we know. And if we know our layout, we can place traps. The traps will not prevent the hacker to come into my network, but it will delay it. It will make them angry. It will make them, it will drive them to make a mistake. And this is the only thing what, as a defender, I want, to make them a mistake, because that's now noisy. That will make a loud noise. So I know, you are inside. I will go in. I will go after you. Now, technology perspective, this is just for the reference. I don't want to spend time on this one. So how can you place all of those honey things? Honeypot obviously being one of them, the famous deception technologies, but not just honeypots, also can be a honey user. You create a fake account, and then you're never gonna use that, but the hash might be in memory, and a hacker dumps that hash value and reuse the pass the hash technique, it will trigger an alarm. It can be an entry in a database. So when you do a database backup, you have to just to take out that part of the database because you know it's a decoy. So you do a regular, just exclude that one. But when a hacker gets in, he or she doesn't know if it's a decoy. It will do a complete database dump. And that's the point where it will trigger the thing. You can create a document file which is tempting to touch, to move, to edit, to copy, to open. Any idea? Salary.txt, network topology, or whatever. You should be creative. And you place that in a download folder, you place it on a desktop, you place it on a network file share. And you should never touch that, because in a second that file is being touched, it will trigger an alarm, and you know there is a problem. It will not prevent it, but you know what's our ultimate goal? So this is the time when our system is compromised, and this is when you detect it. If we can shrink down this time, if it's days, if it's a month or week, that's not acceptable. This is how when you end up in the media and pay whatever $1 million or euros or a lot of money. If we can shrink down this to the minutes, maybe to the hours, you will have much better outcome. So this might help you. And do you know how much does it cost for you? $0. $0. You just have to be a little bit creative. You don't have to buy anything. Okay, again, some references. You will get a slide, probably just some ideas as a honey themes, what you can use. Obviously, the website, the URL, PDF, is web tokens, DNS entries, so many things. You can use this is a free service. You can have your own server. There's so many things. $0. Just be creative. Now the threat hunting. In a second, we will go to the XDR, and I will show you how is it part of the XDR, the threat hunting. Now, I mentioned the threat hunting is, is something more proactive, so it's not like the firewall or endpoint or something is blinking orange or green, not green, but red, and then you just catch up, take that alarm, assign to yourself or to someone, to analyst, and you dig in and investigate that. That's more reactive. It's still needed. We want that. We want to speed up the whole investigation and stuff like that. XDR will help for the analyst big time. But threat hunting is, like I mentioned, everything seems okay. So there is nothing blinking that much, but on a proactive way. And the reason is that eventually the system will be compromised because all of those digitalization, what we see, our system is getting bigger. And just more complex, and security doesn't like complexity, right? They are not good friends, they are not in hand. So as our system getting better, our attack surface, sometimes I joke there is no attack surface anymore, it's just surface, because everything can be exploited technically. So, and also those things that we recommend as a security industry and experts, you patch your system as fast as you can, but we are not good at it. To patching the system, because system has to run. I mean, it's a Christmas time, your web shop has to run, right? Or a payment card and everything around it, if you're a finance, it has to run because business requires that. You can't patch that file. So that's why eventually might be some problems. Small compromise is gonna happen. small compromises, and I say it's okay. It's hard to digest, but those small compromises will happen, and it's okay. What is not acceptable, I mentioned that it will remain hidden for hours, for weeks, for days, for months, some extreme situation, even for a year. That's not acceptable. This is where we as an industry, as a vendor, as a distributor, as a partner, as an integrator, as a cloud provider, and as a user, has to improve. We have to improve here to shrink that time as much as possible. Now, to give you some example regarding the threat hunting, just one or two. You came up with there's multiple ways how you can do threat hunting. Hypothesis-based being one of the most famous things. So hypothesis might be, well, if it's a PowerShell command executed in my system and the length of the PowerShell command is too much, that might be a compromise. Now you need to define what is okay length, how many characters. So for that you need to do a baselining. So there is a sys monitor. It's a free tool that you install on a system, a Windows system. It will create, you need to a little bit to fine to tweak it. It will log all the PowerShell commands with all the counting, so the command line accounting and everything. You need to feed that information into, I don't know, Curadar, Splunk. I tested with Elasticsearch because it's another free tool. And for 2 weeks, you feed that information, and then even with the graph or a pie chart, you can create, okay, in my environment, in general, there is 100 character long the PowerShell command. I don't know what is it doing, but it's 100 character long. Max was 200 characters. Now, this is my baseline. Anything on top of that is suspicious. So next day, you find a PowerShell command, which is 300, 500 long character. Well, that's suspicious. Because usually PowerShell is being obfuscated or being used by the hacker. They encode that and obfuscate that, and you get a long command. You don't know just seeing it what it does. You have to de-obfuscate or de-encrypt and stuff like that. But this might be one of the idea how hunting might work. That's one way of the hunting. And another way of hunting with a deception, combining deception. So this is when you have a rifle and you want to go after a rabbit or I don't know, a duck or something. So proactively you go. Or you can lay down traps and just to wait for that rabbit to fall in. That's another way of the hunting with the traps. Now, moving to the a little bit of the product side. So this XDR stands for extended detection and response, and threat hunting as a concept is part of it. You can use all of those things, but in a second I will show to you, and I will have some screenshot because this is almost available. So in this end of this month will be generally available. So threat hunting concept can map to it. Deception, not yet, but like I mentioned, it's not a product. The deception, it's more about just thinking lay down the traps. So coming here, this Cisco XDR, you can see those in high level. So what it gives. So what's the benefit? Now these are still high level things. Okay, we want to detect sooner the compromises. This is how it's being done. I'll show you in a second the details. So what integration means. The threat intelligence, what you automatically, it's a Talos obviously, but even if you have a third-party feed, you can send into the system as well. There are some learning as well. Now, if we have many alarms, we need to prioritize them based on different factors. It's not just, okay, how the system can decide what is the top priority. So if you're an analyst in the morning, you got 100 events, like an alarm, somewhere you need to stop. Which 10, which 5, which 3 is the most critical. So that's why we need to do some kind of correlation. Now, reduce the time investigation. When you do your investigation, you need data. You need the relevant context data. So the system, as much as possible, during this presentation in the morning and yesterday, the automation as a concept is critical because everyone lacks of the human resources. So the system should do most of the task for us. Not everything. I dare to say we are not there yet. So the human factor cannot be taken out from the equation yet, as far as security is concerned, in my opinion. But this is threat hunting. At least this is what threat hunting falls in. And those, the first 3 pillars, those are more on detecting side. And then as we move to the fourth and the fifth, this is when you do a response. Because if you figure out that your system has some kind of problems, well, you should first of all to know what's the scope. Is it 3 machines? Is it 5 machines? Is it 110 machines? Which user, which data is being compromised? You want to isolate to prevent the further infection. So this is where the response comes to into the picture. Now, a little bit of the details. So this is the first iteration of the integration. Obviously, our security portfolio, the on-prem and the cloud version, the network, the endpoint, the telemetry data, everything is integrated and everything is included. Now, this is not that new from the perspective because I personally was telling that for the past 3 years that our security stuff is integrated. And that's actually true because all of those security tools and even the routing and switching part, the data centers, they have APIs. So that's an interface where you can fetch information and even to configure something. It's nothing that brand new, but the thing was, if you wanted to interconnect them, the capability was there, but sometimes you had to do some kind of trick, or someone had to do a little development. Now with this Cisco XDR, this is a new platform. This is absolutely integrated, and not just to fetch the information when you do the hunting, but also, the system will continuously feed the information. We have also the storages where you can store that data, and eventually even you can come back to, go back to in the time. So this is it. As a first iteration, we also integrate with the third-party vendors, and you can see there are some very good other vendors with whom sometimes we compete in different places, but that's okay. And this is just the first step. Eventually it will come even more vendors because we know they have market share, they're good vendors, they're just good. So we have to integrate with them. And integration is not like, hey, just send me something to the API call. It's much deeper context-wise. If we go a little bit deeper, architecture level, so this is where we feed information from our stuff, also from a third party. So we ingest that data, and a great circle, this will be a capability that you can do a hunting, because hunting is that you have a data and you have to just run those queries. You have to come up with an idea. If I do queries this way, wow, that's suspicious. Now the system, for those who don't have threat hunters or that their security maturity is not at that level, they can rely on the green box, so the word circle. That means, okay, all of the data, what I feed into the system, based on AI, or I better much like to say machine learning. AI is a little bit, I don't know. Anyway, so the system will automatically cross-correlate that data, also coming from the intelligence, included intelligence, and you can have other feed as well, and then you can do response, isolate the system, play some playbooks. And just to finalize that, because that's a high-level architecture and a concept, when you log into the system, this is the first step. So these are when you see just an overview. Okay, this is what happened the last day, or last night in my system. When you click on those, you drill down, you get a little bit deeper, you get a little bit more information. This is still everything automated. You don't have to, be that clever at that point. So it's not a hunting, it's more a security analyst, getting some alarm, and he has to do an investigation. Maybe it's just a false alarm, then it's whitelisted, close the case, move on. Or if it's an incident and some system impacted, which is high prior and severe, we need to get more detail. So you get a little bit more detail. Obviously, MITRE framework is being mapped to it a little bit more. Type of the alarms, is it an email, is it a web, is it a firewalls, what kind of protocol was that? And then you can even go more deeper. So the system will do a prioritization. So that's a number from 0 to 1,000. That's basically the detection risk. It will be calculated by the system itself based on the context info. And if you do an asset inventory, a value, you can assign, hey, because it's multiplied by the blue number, and that's what you assign. If you don't assign anything, the base will be 5, or default will be 5, then that's basically like you don't have that. But if you say, this kind of servers are important, I assign 10 or 7 or 9, the priority will be higher. So this is how the numbers are being calculated. Now, we are here, and if you go drill down more deeper, you get also the visualization. So you see all the relevance between those files, emails, DNS names, computers, all the assets, what's the scope of the infection, and even if you click down, it gets more, nicer to look. This is for us human to better understand the relation for that. The last thing, the telemetry data, what we feed into the system, because we have much more data coming to the system, we have new detection capabilities. This is just a highlighting. So if we have the Cisco AnyConnect, a secure client, that will send net flow information on a process level. So I will know if that connection is bad, I know which process will generate that flow. This is available in the last 7 or 10 years, maybe even 10 years, but the trick was that you had to gather that flow and you had to write all of those detection capability by your own, and that's heavy. Now the system will ingest that data and automatically the Talos guys will write those. So if you have LDAP connection from suspicious process, well, we know which process should create those LDAP connections, something else, the system will make an alarm. Those are the capabilities, what we get from the endpoint level. And this is threat hunting. You don't see the details, you don't have to, but this is how the system will show you all the technical details. This is an endpoint process level. This is part of the hunting. If you have those people, that knowledge, if you want to go that details, you can write your own script and playbooks. And with that, this is the place where you want to go and find more information about IPR. Thank you very much.